This is Haiti. Caught in the middle of an escalating gang war, it's a country on the brink of collapse. Murder, kidnappings, and sexual violence are an everyday reality. The gangs have become too powerful and the police are no match. What's really incredible, actually, is the sense of being in a war zone. Actually, over the years, we have seen Haiti's downward spiral into violence and chaos. This is very much an ongoing disaster. So, how has Haiti reached this point, and what might happen next? Haiti is a small country in the Caribbean. Its capital, Port-au-Prince, is mostly controlled by dangerous armed gangs. You've got so many factions, so many gangs fighting each other, and their territories are very specific. The city is caught in the middle of a deadly tough battle between these groups. January was the most violent month in the country in more than 2 years. At least 86 people were killed, injured, or kidnapped in January. In 2023, nearly 5,000 people were killed, a 110% increase on the year before. Girls also continued to use sexual violence against women and girls as a weapon. Things have deteriorated as this year has gone on. People fled their homes during heavy shootouts between rival gangs fighting for control of territories and businesses. In that same month, gangs attacked police stations, the main airport, and raided country's 2 biggest prisons, releasing thousands of inmates. In March, Haiti entered a state of emergency. Signs of street battles could be seen everywhere. Now, a gang boss and former police officer known as Barbecue called for criminal groups to unite and overthrow the Prime Minister, Ariel Henry. These gangs are incredibly powerful. They control major roads, ports, and food supplies and take money from businesses. But fear is their number one weapon. But Haiti's trouble go back much further than this. How Haiti got into this point can be traced through its history of political instability, social unrest, natural disasters, and foreign interventions. After being ruled as a Spanish and then a French colony, Haiti got a glimpse of independence in the 1800s. The Haitian Revolution was the first successful large-scale revolt by enslaved people in the modern history. But it came at a price. The country was forced to take out high-interest loans to pay a debt in France. In 1915, the United States invaded, wanting to protect their own commercial interests in the country. More unstable governments followed until the 1950s, when Papa Doc seized power and ruled as a dictator. Following his death, his son Baby Doc took over. Under their rule, thousands of people were murdered or tortured in jails, and corruption left the country struggling economically. In 1986, a revolt forced Baby Doc to flee. But what followed was more chaos, with multiple leaders replaced in multiple coups. President Jean Bertrand fled into exile after several attempts at overthrowing him led to conflict across the country. By this time, Haiti was grappling with gang violence and spiraling crime, as well as political instability. But this UN mission was controversial, being linked to a cholera outbreak and allegations of human rights abuses. Things got even worse in 2021 when President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated. Since then, gang violence has surged, with criminal groups stepping in to fill the gap left by political failure and a lack of economic development. The smuggling of weapons and drugs into the country also fuels the criminal gangs. With no elected civilian government, chaos on the streets, and a group of gangs who control vast swaths of the country to all intents and purposes, Haiti is now controlled by a federation of gang bosses, which is arguably a world first. At the helm is Barbecue, a man who is a force to be reckoned with. The most recent wave of gang violence came when the country's Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, visited Kenya. He had been finalizing plans for a peacekeeping force to come from Africa to Haiti, with the financial backing of the United States. Given this increasingly urgent need, the United States Department of Defense doubled its approved support for the mission. However, later on, the US pulled off. While the timeline for this is unclear, what is clear is that the people of Haiti want change. The longer this crisis goes on, the more people are being caught in the crossfire. With Haiti's struggle so deep-rooted within the society, it's hard to imagine where it goes from here.